Let's start with the Gamecocks because Shane Beamer and company, they make bowl games surprisingly in his first 2 years. They fight tooth and nail and somehow make a bowl game. I think they won both of those bowl games if memory serving well, but this year was just, a big disappointment. And, there were some people picking them as a dark horse in the SEC East. There were some people, maybe not on this show, that were expecting a big step forward, but it just didn't happen. Now, all of a sudden, after all the positivity, all the, good press that Shane Beamer had built up, is it fair to say that he's going to enter 2024 on the hot seat?
Maybe not lose his job next year type of thing, but he needs to turn it around quickly. And I'm not necessarily a fan of the whole Beamer ball thing. I don't necessarily think it works. I don't think that this is a program that's necessarily as, genius as some of the people were telling us that it was, because I think a lot of this program was contingent upon some really talented players early on just getting it done. And once those talented players have kind of filtered out, and, once Spencer Rattler turns out to be a lot closer to Spencer Rattler than, a good quarterback, then I think that unfortunately, things didn't turn out the way that South Carolina wanted them to. And to kind of pull a couple of the stats, they finished 77th in points per game. They finished 66th in points against them per game. They go 5-7, obviously. But look at some of these numbers. So Spencer Rattler, he throws for over 3,000 yards. That's pretty solid. He was the vast majority of the offense. But he only throws 19 touchdowns versus 8 interceptions. It's not a very good ratio. You don't want to see that. And by the way, the kind of most of their offense, just to put it in perspective, their leading rusher had 700 yards rushing, and he was number 2 with 100. So not a whole lot of offense going on there outside of Spencer Rattler. And when you say that, your team's probably in trouble, unfortunately. And, you look at some of the results from the year, some big losses. They had a big string of losses kind of in there in the middle, lose to Tennessee by 21, close loss to Florida, almost got that one done. But then you get smoked by Missouri. You lose to Texas A&M, not a very good team. I'm looking at this whole season and I'm saying, I don't think that this is a good season for Beamer ball and for that projection. And I think we need to kind of slow our roll and ask ourselves, like, what needs to happen schematically? Obviously, got to figure out what's going on offense. Do you need a transfer quarterback? Do you need, a big time running back? Like, what do you need to do to get this thing right? I'm glad that I'm not sitting in the seat, because while I don't think he's in danger of losing his job this year, things could get real rocky real fast, and he may not escape 25 if he doesn't turn things around in 24.
Well, the bright side for South Carolina is they are, I think next year will be his most talented team in South Carolina. They've got a new quarterback. You mentioned transfer quarterback. They picked up Robbie Ashford out of Auburn. Fantastic athlete. Maybe not the best quarterback, but, maybe you can work with that. They got Rocket Sanders from Arkansas. That's going to be a really interesting backfield. And they don't have Georgia on the schedule next year. That's a big plus. They do play Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. But, and of course, their rivalry game comes in. But it's going to be fascinating to see next year for South Carolina. I think it will be an era-defining year. I don't know if it goes south if he loses his job, but it will be an era-defining year, I think, for Shane Beamer next year in South Carolina.
Gracious him. How about that?